Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News. And yeah, I pushed my way into William's show. Let you all know I'm still down. It's not getting any better. And I'll let you guys know on a regular basis what's going on with me. If it was me, I would take y'all to the hospital with me and you could watch the surgery. But no, kind of gory, huh, William? I'm thinking odd
Yeah,
things.
yes, I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so. All right. So it's William's show, and I just wanted to throw a few things in. Nancy Pelosi got uh, bombarded at her house, they say, by hecklers. They're not happy with her. And she said, F you, go back to China. So, yeah, her own, William, what would you call it? Her own protesters have now turned on her. Wow. So, and hello to
Maybe it's like California Dreaming. Maybe it's like one of those '60s love fests gone bad.
well, they're fine as long as they stay out of her yard, and they're not doing that. And
Uh-oh.
maybe she had one of them Long Island's iced teas. Too many of them. Got angry. I don't know.
I think she knows what those are.
And then, folks, on a lighter note, just before I turn all this over to William, Yellen. Yellen is not sticking up. It seems like, and maybe William even has something on it, but if not, maybe we'll pull this back up for Wednesday. Um, Yellen's not sticking up for Biden on this economics anymore. She can't. It's to the point where she shows the numbers or else. And she's starting to say that it's not good. What's going on with the economy isn't good. So, is his party breaking down, William? You see this? I mean, when you corner
Well,
them, and
she's still
whoops,
kind of to the hilt. I mean, she's still got some things going.
yeah,
Invest in China right up until the outbreak of hostilities. I think that's her position.
yeah. I just think that his party's going to start breaking down. And then there was a article that said the Obamas and Clintons are going to help him.
Oh yeah, they're having a big fundraiser this spring.
Uh huh. Well,
Yeah,
maybe.
that's the plan because he's already got the biggest war chest ever created in history, but apparently it's not
Yeah.
enough. It seems that Trump, according to him being on the talking on the stage the other day, called Trump the sitting president.
Yeah. He's not
Oh,
good. He's there's no way he could do it, but rumors are Michelle's going to pop in at the last minute. Well, when you listen to the black voters right now, they're done. They're done. African Americans are done. I went through and I seen dozens of of YouTube, uh, of Rumble, all of them, TikTok. They are bad mouthing Biden for the position they're in right now. The economy, the cost, and the lies. They're now
well,
starting. As
but
much
the
as I've been
economy is going to
yelling,
go better.
y- um,
He says the economy's about to do better.
yeah, right. But they're finding out the Democrat Party is the party of slavery. That's what I'm hearing a lot of. And it's like, Karen, how many years have we been saying this about the Democrat Party? They were the party of slavery, forming the KKK. And man, I've even played videos on it. So now, one more thing, and then I'll make me really, really small, and William will be bigger. Um, University of Georgia. Uh, they come back from spring break to their dorm. Beautiful dorm. It's not that old. And they seen maybe a bat here or there. they start seeing more bats, and they opened up one of the doors, and they have thousands of bats that have infested the dorm at the University of Georgia. And so, PETA jumps in and says, "Oh no, you can't hurt them. Can't hurt the bats." Yeah. So, uh, Karen said she was assaulted by. I wish I'd run into one of these people. I do with the college students. But once I start talking to them and telling them the truth, and then they all get their phones and they start looking at their phones, they're like, "Wow, wow," or "Where did you find that? Where did you hear it?" And I say, "Right here, right here, right there." And they'll pick up their phones, they'll look at, "Yeah, it is." They're stupid enough to put it at whitehouse.gov, or even the Capitol, or the deep Department of Justice, FBI. So the University of Georgia students now have to figure out a way. And they just kind of shut the building down, and everybody's got to move out until they consider what they're going to do with the bats.
Well, why don't they just call,
Bat-a-rooter.
animal services and have them
Bat-a-rooter.
go outside?
Karen, do you like that one? Bat-a-rooter, yeah. I told William, "Man, folks, as much pain as I'm in, I've got to take pain pills, and I just get goofy, but I hurt really bad." So, William, I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and batter rooter. I like that. So anyway, you could finish off with the bats, and I'm going
to rooter.
Ask Karen. I come up with the stuff. And I'm like, "Man, I'll have to use that later." And then I never write it down and never use it. So, but yeah, I kept Karen cracked up in uh, Myrtle Beach is where I met her. And I think I quacked her up then. Uh, we'll just have to see her response to this. Uh, and we've been great friends ever since. So, all right, William, I'm going to adjust this out. Um, there we go. And so, it's all yours. And if I disappear from the screen, it's probably because I need to get in a better position to where I'm not hurting so bad. So go ahead, William.
So I just got a drink because I don't know, my mouth got dry all of a sudden, thinking I was going to be, Oh. Anyway, here we go. There's quite a bit of information coming out on our troops that were killed, and I've got it in two different write-ups here, and so let me find it so I have both. I can see both at the same time. While we're doing that, Gasoline Ghislaine of the Epstein fame is going to write a tell-all memoir, and she's obsessed with it. All right, so according to Commander Brian McGrath, we had a missile. It was a kamikaze drone or suicide drone, whatever they want to call it, was aimed at U.S. troops in a place called Tower 22. Now it's in a Jordanian base, right near a garrison, near Tanif garrison, and another garrison just inside of Syria that's an air base. Now, Tower 22 was supposed to be kind of in a safe place in Jordan, but not so much. Now, there were 3 U.S. troops killed. The suicide drone landed in the base housing. housing there are tents, right? But they're all in the same area. There's 350 total Army and Air Force that are there, part of a logistics support group, okay, and helicopter squadron as well. And their job was to resupply this other base that was in Syria. And the Syrian base was there to keep ISIS and the proxies of Iran from using the highway to bring in weapons into Syria and by extension down into southern Lebanon. Okay. So there were 25 injured at the time of the strike, as well as 3 killed. 8 of those have been transferred now to Longschule, Germany, which is, it's like U.S. military's trauma level 4 or level 1, whatever's the most useful in trauma. Anyway, they're in Germany, so they've been transferred. Now, the Tower 22 is in Rutban, Jordan, in the Wasid district of Jordan. Okay, we've got that. So since 2011, Washington spent hundreds of millions of dollars to help Amman, which is the capital of Jordan, set up an elaborate surveillance system known as Border Security Program to stem infiltration by militants from Syria and Iraq. Boy, we could use that right now ourselves. Anyway, also in Jordan, we have a lot of troops stationed at Nawafik, Salti Air Base, and we've done a lot of work there as well. Now, Tehran's allies, or proxies, whatever we want to call them at the moment, are bracing for retaliation. And Tehran is denying responsibility for the whole mess. President Biden met with members of the Security Council. Oh, God, here we go. Here's some of the people that were there: Jake Sullivan, Lloyd Austin, Avril Haines, Jeff Zients, John Feiner, Liz Sherwood Randall. She's the gal that almost got overrun in Libya. And then Brett McGrath. So I think Brett McGrath is probably the only one that's competent in that whole security, national security team. So they're there giving the president, trying to explain to him what we should or shouldn't be doing. Probably not good advice. Going through my notes really quick. Trump says that Biden's killed the American dream, and he's put us in a situation where we might end up in World War III, and he's terribly concerned that we might end up getting there. to Doug McGregor. He says Biden has only increased Iran and its proxies' capacity to make war. He says we are now looking at war with Turkey, Iran, and Hezbollah simultaneously. Of course, there's Hamas and the Houthis as well. So, who was it that hit our base there, Tower 22? Well, it was none other than ISIS. So that's not a surprise. We've been there in an anti-ISIS mission for like ever and ever, according to Commander Brian McGrath, especially since 2011. Now, Dr. Chris Martenson the other day has said that foreign military sleeper cells are a covert part of NGOs. And that makes sense considering what we're seeing. I've said that public-private partnerships is what an NGO is dangerous to the United States. And also at the same time, because of this NGO thing, Michael Yan warns of a Texas border false flag as rhetoric heats up about the border. Also, Mike Baker on the Rubin Report has talked about the politicization of the CIA and a potential war with Iran. And at the same time, we have a UN worker, if I can find him, my note on him, is warning the president that he shouldn't strike. An ex-UN weapons inspector, David Albright, said on TV as a warning to Biden that he gave Biden a chilling nuclear warning that Iran, after the kamikaze drone strike, that if we go after Iran and not just Iran's proxies, well then there's a chance that Iran might accelerate their building of a nuclear warhead. So I'd like to tell Inspector Albright something.
Well,
Iran's
you know
going to
they
do
want
it
that,
anyway.
William. I heard earlier. I got a message from Israeli 7 News, and they were going to go into a ceasefire for prisoner swap or for negotiations. But this afternoon, I got a thing on my phone where sirens go off when they start the bombing again, and they're bombing again. So
Right.
that's Gaza
So
and
there's been
that's Hamas and Israel
times.
and Hezbollah.
Yeah, there's been 2 times that has almost made its way and been accepted, but it hasn't made it through. So we've got one of the guys from the White House, which is the competent one, in Egypt, the Egypt security forces and the Qatar security forces all talking together, trying to set up this deal to get a 2-month ceasefire with Hamas for all the hostages. Now, Hamas has not accepted this in the past because they want it to be a permanent ceasefire. They don't want the war to go on after the 2 months. So that's been the big catch Now, I don't know if they've suddenly gone over that hurdle or not. And if they're firing missiles, that sounds like they're not accepting it.
Mhm.
Okay, while we're there with Gaza, the UN RWA. So in the United Nations, there's a dedicated agency for supplying aid to Gaza. And I also think to the West Bank, but I'm not sure about the West Bank. I am sure about Gaza. Now, they found out that 12 of the UN RWA employees were suspected of participating with Hamas. And turns out they were. So let me tell you what they were involved in here. As soon as I find my note. So one was involved in kidnapping on October 7th. One handed out ammunition during kibbutz massacre. The other one took part in the massacre itself. Then we have these others that were involved, these 10 other employees. One was feeding the hostages UN-marked food in a UN-marked facility. So they were involved in the hostage taking. And all 10 of these were part of Hamas. One was a school counselor, one was a coordinator, coordinating vehicles on the day of the attack. 2 worked in the schools in other capacities. They had a clerk, a social worker, a storeroom manager, and at this point, they're losing their funding until after a full investigation. Now, Sunday, Secretary Guterres said that services might need to be reduced beginning in February, and the agency commissioner warned of an impending catastrophe if they don't get those funds. It's kind of already a catastrophe, guys. Oh, it wasn't gasoline or just. It's Ghislaine Maxwell who was writing that book. Sorry about that. The Epstein Madam. Oops. Now, for Europe and NATO, they've decided that a Russian invasion is no longer unthinkable. So, what were they thinking when they started this thing? All right, moving on. The Russians, at the same time, are in the South China Sea with their Eastern Fleet. I guess it's their Eastern Fleet. Anyway, their Pacific Fleet. They're in a coordinated anti-submarine task, and they're involved in conducting it, of course, in this South China Sea. And this is according to the Russian news agency. Now, people shouldn't be surprised about this. That's the deep water closest outside of Japan, outside of China, outside of the Philippines, outside of Taiwan. So if they were going to run those things and not run them right next to the U.S. coast, that's probably the best place to be doing their training there. And they're going to be using firing dummy torpedoes, so torpedoes without warheads, and they'll be using depth charges during their simulation, but not on actual submarines. Okay. Now, what we've heard in Gaza is a number of troops are getting set for action in the Lebanese border. So they've been pulled out of Gaza now. They're getting re-kitted, right? And they're going through a rest cycle. Many have been returned to their families and are just waiting for the next call up. Now, Israel believes that a fight with Hezbollah on Lebanon's border is inevitable at this point. Now, there's been a few people in the news. President Trump warned we are on the brink of World War III, and we've had others ask, are we on the brink of World War III? And really that depends on Biden's response to these hostilities. So if he continues down the road they've done in Ukraine and these small tit-for-tat bombings they've done with these proxies, probably we will end up in a war, because if you don't put your enemy on their back foot, if you don't escalate things enough that they're afraid to take the next step, it will end in more escalation, and more escalation will lead to two regional wars that the United States are involved in. Now, currently we're involved in what do they call that? Operation Poseidon, Archer, something like that. They're trying to suppress the Houthis. Now, on these missile strikes, they had a problem up at Tower 22. There was confusion on that ISIS missile that killed our 3 servicemen and wounded those servicemen. We had a drone returning to base at the same time, and they may have fired their Iron Dome weapons, if you want to call it that, and knocked down our own drone, allowing the other drone to make its way through. So they believe in investigation that it was a misidentification of which drone was coming in. And, it was late at night. People's circadian rhythm drops off at night. They're not as sharp. And if you're on watch, well, bad things happen if you don't pay attention. Now, is it the fault of the servicemen? Absolutely not. They were fired upon. They were doing their level best. Now, that truck convoy going down to our border, not, the Lebanese border or the Egyptian border or the Jordanian border or the Iraq, our border, the one that we keep forgetting to maintain. So they were saying that the trucks going down there, the convoy, was, trying to think of it, God's army. The left has been calling it in the news. Well, it's not God's army, by the way. And number 2 is commercial truckers can't carry weapons. It's against federal law. So they're not armed either. And no, there's probably not going to be a Fed surrection down there either. Now they've gone from the weapons, God's army, now they're talking insurrection. This is all pretty standard for the left and this current administration. So, yeah. nobody get blamed for something they didn't do, and were set up so that they can push this narrative, and so they don't have to deal with the border the way the Republicans want them to in the House. So, in case you guys don't know, there was a bill put forward for funding and for aid to Ukraine and aid to Israel, but they required that the border be shut down and not allow people to come through until they've been fully vetted. Not vetted by the court 7 years from now. Fully vetted before they come into the United States. And if they can't be fully vetted, turned around and sent right back to Mexico. And they want that done on at the border. What do you call those, Ellie? Those border places? Forgot the name of.
They're border check-ins, is what they are.
Yeah, the checkpoints, right? The border checkpoints.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So, according to our new Speaker of the House, Johnson, that whole thing is dead on arrival. Now, because it looks like there may be a reduction in weapons going to Ukraine. Of course, we have our Secretary of State, Blinken, and the NATO General Secretary, Stoltenberg, is it Stoltenberg? Yes, Stoltenberg, are saying that they need to be funded soon, or it's going to be a problem, especially on the border. Yeah, I agree with this statement by Colonel Doug McGregor that Biden has only increased Iran and that matter Ukraine's or Russia's capacity to make war against us, and that Iran, Turkey, and Hezbollah are likely to be the next people jumping in to the fray. Now that's concerning, right? Because Turkey is our only nation in the East that's part of NATO. So what happens then? At the same time, we've been finding out that there are foreign fighters from the groups from Iran, from Turkey, and Hezbollah currently in northern Mexico. And groups are entering into the United States from Mexico. Okay? So in the event a war with Iran, Turkey, and Hezbollah occurs, we would likely be facing a three-front war. All right? The first would be in the Middle East. The second would be actually on the Mexican border. And the third would be with cells within the United States. Okay? So we have those concerns. And of course, that goes to Dr. Martinson's saying that we have foreign military sleeper cells in the United States and are also part of non-governmental organizations, right? Now, Natalie and Clayton Morris of Redacted have come out and said they believe the neocons and this White House, this administration, are in fact insane and are leading us to World War III. I can't really disagree with that, at least as the way they've moved forward so far. Oh, here's a real nice one. Remember that airplane thing that we had with Alaska Airlines, where the door plug came out, it appears that due to DEI hires at Boeing, that actually the planes were shipped out with the critical bolts, the critical nuts, and the cotter pin. So the castle nut, the cotter pin, and the bolts were left out on both sides. Good news for all of us, I guess, right?
Yeah.
No. But
Think
at the
about
same
before
time,
flying
China's
right
having
now.
Well, go ahead.
Think about flying before you fly now.
Yeah, you might want to kick the wall and see if it rattles. Anyway, yeah, that's not so funny, but it's kind of funny.
You hear about Amelia Earhart. They may have found her plane.
Oh, they always do that. They do. Amelia Earhart, they found her plane, and UFOs as soon as the administration gets in trouble. That's just me. I don't know if they always do Amelia Earhart, but they like to throw the whole UFO thing out. That's a nice distraction. You know, at the same time, there were 140 people killed overnight in Gaza, 20 from the same family. And of course, it's blamed on Israel. Now, how they're blaming Israel now is they're saying that, well, Israel allowed it to be a false flag. So what they're telling us is Israel was able to command Hamas to attack their own territory. Yeah, that kind of falls apart right away. So it is what it is. Oh, here's some good news. Obama has a new secret weapon for his run for the presidency, and it's none other than Taylor Swift. Yeah, he believes that Taylor Swift will be able to get 20% of the American public to vote for him, a full 20%. Republicans, Democrats, 20%, right down the lines, right? So, yeah, he's got a secret weapon. It's Taylor Swift, the same Taylor Swift that ESPN put that whole fake Taylor Swift thing video, and the fans got all upset, and now the whole AI policy is in question in Congress, right? And yeah, so Taylor Swift, it's important politics. Speaking of political politics, police in Brazil have gone after Bolsonaro's son. He was the guy that was trying to reform the country into a more conservative government rather than going wholesale with the communist Chinese. Anyway, so they've run this spy probe, the police have, and apparently they've took a page from both the FBI and, well, Page, you know, it's a couple. Get an FBI and Page. Anyway, yeah, Page, right, took a page. I'm terrible with jokes, guys. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Idaho, the government has sent troops to the Texas border. That's good to know. Fetterman had a bunch of protesters at his government, and so he did the only right thing to do, having all these anti-Israel protests at his front door, as he went up on the roof of his house and swung the Israeli flag. Good for him. Anyway, so on Holocaust Memorial Day, Germany rallies against the far right. Now, I want you guys to understand this. In far right are the National Socialists. The far left are the communists. And then you've got the Democratic in the center. Now, both the communist ideology and the National Socialist ideology both came from the Frankfurt School, Frankfurt University, okay? And it was based on satanic writings, both of those systems. So if you hear that Germany's gone to the far right, it's not right like it is in the United States, conservatives. Conservatives in Germany are just the middle, okay? The far left or the far right are either the National Socialists or the communists. So in Europe, far right means something different than it does here in the United States. Okay. So Trump has been preparing now. They're looking at a massive new trade war with China to stop investors that will keep, investing right up to the point of bloodshed. So he wants to start a trade war because our investors won't quit investing in China. Investors like, I don't know, BlackRock and what's the other one, State Street, and a lot of these investors, which are taking your money so that they can invest it in China that's going to build weapons that your sons and daughters are going to die trying to stop. Not a good idea. So Trump believes that it's going to require a trade war with China. Now, it doesn't mean stopping all trade with China, but a trade war so that they're not able to use U.S. funds to build their own military up. Now, Chevron says that this climate hysteria has caused a risk of gasoline and oil shortages in the United States. And considering our stockpile of oil in the strategic reserve is near at the bottom. And at the same time, of course, Biden has just gone through and blocked the maintenance or upkeep or the production of natural gas again. Now, you heard about Brazil going after the prior candidate's son. Now we've got Venezuela's highest court upholds a ban on the opposition presidential candidate Marie Corina Machado. So, yeah, there's some fine functioning democracies. I'm sure our government will look at it. Narcissist, what were they calling us? Narcissists down at the border for? Trying to see what that was about. So anyway, the border deal that was set up by the Senate and Biden and the representatives, Johnson calls it dead on arrival, that they're not going to be able to get it through the House. So that's going on. Putin's ally suggests a crisis at our border could start a civil war in the United States. I don't see that because we have people there that are well disciplined, and also we have people that are just protesting. If you've ever seen the difference between a conservative protest and a liberal protest, the conservatives march and do their speeches and sing and do prayers, and that's what they do, right? They don't attack the police. None of that goes on. But when the left does it, they're more more peaceful by, like, burning down buildings and throwing things at the police and assaulting each other and just going pretty much nuts. We don't have that with these trucker convoy going down to Texas. It's likely to be very organized. So it was a nice, try to give us a little stab there by Biden through the press, but I don't think it's going to go very far. We've had some terrible heat in Spain, and of course it's due to, guess what? Climate change. It's true. They had 78 degrees C in Spain, and at the highest, and right now it's 80 degrees C. And so the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. is thinking maybe it's time to get off the planet, according to their climate religious cult thing. Anyway, so that we could better flourish, in an absolute vacuum. More narcissists live in Texas than any other state.
Wow.
Especially Greg Abbott. This comment became the comment came out because Democrats can't say Greg Abbott is good, and trying to fix a problem. So, it is what it is. It's going to be a long, long election season. Here's some important news. Remember the girls in the Slender Man killing, the two girls that, killed for the Slender Man? Well, one's now a woman and committed, right? And she's asked to be, she's asked for requests to be released. So that's good, right? With all the prosecutors and whatnot letting everybody out. So is anybody here in the chat concerned of World War III starting?
I think we'll see a war here at the border before we see one in Taiwan.
Yeah, I think it's just.
But William, you know what I noticed when the feds showed up, the military they sent in to counteract the border patrol. They walked up, they shook hands, they talked for a little bit, and they kind of dispersed. That, to me, isn't... They were saluting one another, or some of them, because there's a live feed for down there. And when I seen that, these military guys aren't going to fight with...
Well, the military guy... Did the military guys leave, or they just allow them to launch their boat?
They didn't launch anything. They just kind of stood around like the rest of them are, just standing around.
Just making sure they don't allow people.
They didn't have weapons. They didn't have.
The National Guard, they're actually packing loaded weapons.
Yeah, now they have. They are. But the guys that showed up that Biden sent, they just kind of walked around and. I didn't sit and watch and see how long they were there, but I watched it.
Well, you saw how effective the Border Patrol were with weapons when they had to go to Uvalde.
Now, William, my question is...
Patrol, I'd leave the National Guard alone.
Okay. My question is, now, when the truck convoy gets there, it's supposed to be today or tomorrow. I think that's when everything's going to start moving into place.
It depends on where the convoy goes. If they go right along the side of the border, it will be one thing. If they're in front of that park under the port of entry, that's just going to be a protest, right?
Right.
I think it depends on
They're
how
going to
they
do
use
like they
the
did to
protest.
Trudeau in Canada. Now, my thing is Biden's going to see it, call it a mega terrorist attack,
Although
and I
they're
think it's
talking
gonna,
about the
I
same
think
thing
it's gonna
that
start
happened
something.
on January. Oh, what are they calling it? They just said today they were calling it the
Because even the media, mainstream media, is starting to take this as a aggressive move by the MAGA people. And it's not an aggressive move. They're just going to ride their trucks down. It's like the bikers.
it's their way of protesting.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to run people over. I don't think they're going to go down and cause trouble. I think they're going to go down and park it like they did in Canada.
Well, they'll use them for big banners and stuff like that, right? They'll use their honks and stuff like that to get people's attention. It's what. Remember when we had the big trucker, the big thing with all the trucks going north from DC that one time to support somebody? That's what they're doing.
Yeah. I just see they're gonna take that as aggression, and the way they respond to the conservative, like you were talking, protests, is they're radicals, they're out of control, they need to be. It's another insurrection, you know.
Yeah, insurrection. That's what they're calling it. A border surrection or some silly thing like that. But driving trucks is not an insurrection.
And these are now, mind you, these are because I had a girl that was part of that I was talking to for a while, and these are independent companies. So each truck is like their own company that hauls what goods across the country.
Yeah, they're private contractors.
Yeah, and so it's not like let's see, it's not like Costco or Sam's, or it's not a company like God, I'm trying to think of some of the names of these truckers.
They haul loads for them, but they own the trucks.
Right, they own the trucks, and then normally they own their own goods, or not own their own goods, but it's a contract between them and the shippers.
Right, but they pay for the trucks, and when the trucks are done, they peel off, because those are just what do they call that?
Pam is a good thing for like a company that has truck drivers that goes and does stuff, where some are just truckers that are independent that
right. Those trucks are shrink wrapped.
Right.
So they look like they belong to the hauler or the people who are shipping the products. But so they shrink wrap those things, right?
Yeah.
To look like, if it was Walmart, if they're contract with Walmart, they'll shrink wrap it to look like a Walmart truck. If they're doing it for Coca-Cola, it's shrink wrapped like Coca-Cola. Well, as soon as the contract expires, out comes a heat gun that peels off, and they go get another shrink wrap someplace else, or they just run independent day to day rather than run off the larger contract.
Right. I had a friend. We had a friend that was his own company, and he did very well. more better than the ones that are work for a company. So, but they're the ones that are going down there. Now, the other thing that concerns me is um, we are not responding to Iran like we should.
Well, we've had a number of generals say that if we give them the pity patty response, that we'll just end up with more and worse. And did we talk about Biden and his speech this weekend where he called Trump the sitting president?
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
And Trump is saying that, and Biden's upset that Trump's
my report from those around him that are kind of part of not his personal caretakers, but are around him that work for the White House and other places, right, is he is very angry, very confused. He's, he has to follow everybody's directions. Now, mind you, this is a man that, and not only that, but the lies. William, he's been telling, remember, he got it for plagiarism in the 70s. He got he got caught lying in his early on, and even at college he tried to cheat to pass classes. This is a man that has nothing. What would you call it? He hasn't done anything to be recognized for. He's a liar. He's a cheat.
Well, he's just a hollow vessel. He'll go wherever
the money is.
Yeah, he just follows
because
the money,
when he was following the 4 KKK Congress senators early on in his career, Senator Byrd being one of them. There's 4 of them he followed. He made millions of dollars as a Congress senator. And he was eating and drinking and being married with them. I'll just put it that way. I've watched him and Bernie Sanders and the Clintons and
Ed Kennedy's parties. Then there's the whole Sanders thing. There's another guy from Vermont up there. I forget his name. That's part of it.
Everybody is like turning against Carrie Lake, and she. The only reason, and the GOP is mad at her. Well, is this the GOP that is fake? Probably. And they're putting her down for what she came forward with. Now, my thing is, why didn't she bring it forward when she first got it? Like, oh, I forgot about it. I didn't realize they taped it. And she's got all kinds of excuses, but it's out there, and it's to warn everybody. Look at the same thing we did here in Arkansas. You get so taken by Democrats that will change parties and say, oh, I'm a Republican now. But then they vote against the Republican Party. Those are the ones that are angry. Those are the ones right now. And you have to take a good long look. You really have to take a good long look at who you're voting for and what they stand for. Are they a lifetime politician like Biden? We've got to have term limits, big time. In fact, I'll even type that in.
It's like going on a date and trying to decide if the gal or guy you're dating is a gold digger, right?
Yeah.
So you see what end of the menu they order from, and if they order more than they can possibly eat or stuff like that. We've been watching Biden forever. And, speaking of these Republicans that are really Democrats and Republicans skin, North Carolina, their caucuses has called for no confidence vote for McDaniels at the
Yeah.
And they say it's due to they got FEC filings that showed how she was misusing her leadership and their funds. Now, Trump, with this whole E.G. Carroll thing, he's decided to cut Elena Haba loose to go after this whole thing, because it turns out that this E.G. Carroll was part of a Roberta Kaplan powerhouse law firm, like a white shoe powerhouse law firm, and they worked together. And Roberta Kaplan's brother is, of course, Judge Lewis Kaplan. And so, Trump is going to turn Elena loose to get justice. So that's interesting. Did we talk already about Omar? Comes out as a Somalia first in her, she had the speech up north, I think it was in Wisconsin. And, she's talking to Somali folks here in the United States and saying that she's Somalia first, and they're waving the Somalia flag and going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have that, what's the name of that other one? Rashida Tlaib?
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of
her mother is, now get this, her mother lived in Gaza. Why didn't she get her the hell out? She just complains, oh, this is happening, that's happening to her family over there. And, well, you know what? Get them out of there. Why complain? I wouldn't let my mom be in the middle of that, or my family. If I was a politician, I would be getting them out, not complaining that they're being terrorized. They're people are being killed around them, and the bombs are going off, and then go get them.
Yeah, I agree.
And AOC, the bartender, she's just she's Biden in the making. Lies, cheats. It's all about the money. She's going to end up being a career politician. And man, I just, I've went rounds over and over and over again with the college students here on her. That she's there's none of her talking points that make sense, and she lies. And she lies.
Well, it is what it is.
So
we had that little problem in Wuhan with those strange Wuhan-like viruses being experimented upon there in communist China. Well, good news, American labs are doing the same thing here in the United States. Great. I'm sure we're funding them too. I talked about Obama already.
Mm-hmm.
Did I already talk about it on the show?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me see what I've got.
So we got Fedsurrection at the border. We got the Slender Lady. We had this aircraft that went from China to the United States at a ground speed of 826 miles an hour. This is the China Airlines Flight 516. They got caught into the jet stream, and those planes can't go into Mach because they'll rip the planes apart. And Mach speed at ground level is like 660 miles an hour. So, they were going fast. Now, if you're going the other way, it would have been really slow. So that's airline information. Of course, we talked about Haley getting swatted.
I think it was Kirby. I could be wrong, but I think it was Kirby that came out in response to the lethal attacks will hopefully have a better effect on Iran's actions, unlike prior responses. We're increasing the attacks on their proxies, and so they think doing this will cause Iran to back off. It was his statement, and I about laughed till I cried, William. Isn't that what they said about if we let crime happen, they'll eventually the crime rate in the United States. If we defund the police, we put counselors out there that we let crime happen, they'll get tired of doing crime and become good. And that's what this sounds like. We're going to attack their little proxies, and if we attack them enough, Iran will eventually not uh, support
Well,
them.
like, go just look at the whole Davos pattern. Is they want to escalate things very slowly, always slowly, so they can adapt to it, right? But what they're going to do is cause their own extinction. But Obama can't make a big, huge leap jump like that. That would unbalance Europe, you know, Biden's friends, and it would make the whole plan go longer, or cause the plan to fail. So the whole climate crowd are part of this cult, and they can't vary from it. And so it doesn't really matter whether the right thing to do is say, okay, look, 20 days down the road, if we don't do anything, how much attacks are we going to get? And instead of going day by day, stopping their attacks, just jump to the 20 days ahead of us and then hit them hard. See what I'm saying? With that amount.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not doing that. They're just giving, they're attacking just in reciprocity, right? They're not giving Tehran and Iran a reason to back up. We had a president before we had to deal with Iran. They shot up one of our boats, but they only injured our sailors. Thank God, because Ronald Reagan only sunk one of their ships, made another inoperable, blew up 3 oil wells that were being used as military bases in the Persian Gulf. And what else did he do? Anyway, so that was proportional, right, for Reagan, because he knew what was going to happen next. And the next thing was just going to be all-out war. So I ran back down. That's not going to happen the way these guys are dealing with it. Group think doesn't work with foreign policy. Do you think Putin's doing groupthink?
Oh,
Do you think Xi's doing groupthink?
you want to hear something really odd, William? And I had a sort here for what you're talking about, but since you brought it up, you know that Germany, the time of the Holocaust and everything, they are saying that it was Poland and Ukraine that was in charge of the death camps, not Germany.
So
Isn't that weird?
when we imported all those people from the Jews, when Germany imported the Jews from Poland, of course they had to go, right?
Yeah.
And so they went into Germany's
Yeah.
camps. Well, when they got as far as Ukraine, right, then they moved them into the new camps that were probably built in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and then they asked all of the officers fled to Ukraine when they were invaded. They all ran, and that's where they said, where I think it was on TV that Hitler could have been in South America. But what's weird is all of the because you got to wonder where all these guys went to, and a lot of them did go to Ukraine. So
Well, they had no choice once they were conquered,
yeah,
right?
and they were still,
The ones, the ones
Hitler.
that stayed out of
Um,
the grasp of the Russians then fled to cross the Alps into Spain and got visas through the Vatican,
mhm,
and then were shipped off to Argentina.
mhm.
So if your area was captured and you were a German officer, the best thing you could do is renounce it right then and there and become part of the Russian army, because it's your only chance to survive. Otherwise, you're going to go straight to the gulags.
Yeah.
Okay, there was something else. So you know how they got Trump's tax returns? So Bezos, Jeff Bezos, his investors saw his tax returns, but somehow stumbled upon Trump's tax returns. Can you believe that? They got misdirected away from his tax returns and towards Bezos. Can't be a really good guy for us, I think. Anyway, there's some publishers right now that are very upset. They're being laid off at a lot of the big Main Street media shops, and that's sad. So that's kind of all I got, Ellie. That was the news I could find, and I'm sure there's other things, but
We'll go. And as far as me with the shows, we're going to go day by day, folks. I'm in a lot of pain. I've told Karen about it. Oh, Mary's in here. And you can always get a hold of Susan, Karen, if you guys want my phone number. I'm not good at talking because I hurt. But we're going to go day by day, and check tomorrow and see if we're on, or Wednesday for sure. Wednesday, because we want to do the World War III report. And William's helping me out, and Mary's willing to step in and help too. So.
Well, that's good.
So anyway, close it up, William, and I'll shrink myself back down, and you close up your show.
Yeah, everybody just comment. If you put your stuff in comments, I'll read that, right, for the next show. Also, give us a thumbs up if you like, our effort, and be sure to subscribe. Share us with others that if you have a concern about them not getting good and useful information to make proper decisions for, voting or maybe just even their lifestyle. Send us their way. And we just want you to know that even though Ellie's having troubles, I'm trying to step up the best I can, and I'm really thankful for her opportunity she's given me to contribute. It's my way to give back, even though I'm kind of broken up old retired military guy. But, once you're in the Marines, you're always a Marine, right? You can't really give the stuff up. Now, I'm completely an introvert, yet I'm doing this show because it's necessary to help Ellie. When somebody's going in the right direction, you have to help out. It doesn't have to be exactly the right direction, but approximately the right direction. Show up and help out. It's a great thing. So anyway, hey, it's been nice seeing you all, and yeah, term limits, that is a must. We'll see you all again next time, as soon as it happens. All right, we love you all, wherever you are in the world, from whatever group you're a part of. I talked to some Iranian guys after the Shah was deposed, and our people were taken hostage. And these were guys that were stuck in the United States. They were marooned here because they were students in and now they couldn't go back to Iran. And it's like they said, there's always a-holes in every country. And I think that's true. But the mass of people are just trying to get along and, make their lives a little better day by day. And those are the people, we want to hear our message. Because then when something happens at their doorstep, they're not surprised. They can get out of the way of it. They can have a more peaceful life. They're not in as great a harm's way. So, yeah, share, and we love you, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, all.